Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as we go for one more time. Welcome to the VMO TCUK, powered by VCO. It's been 9 grueling rounds of racing action, and now we round off the 2023 season once again here at Brands Hatch. Today, of course, we'll be on the GP loop. It's myself, Zach Sweeney, Ewan O'Leary in the commentary booth, Mike Yao, as always, pushing the buttons behind the scenes and directing the cameras. Ewan, we've got a very interesting prospect in terms of the championship battle for today, considering one of them isn't even here.
Yeah, that's what makes it really unique about this round of the championship. The final round doesn't even contain the championship leader, Matt Richards, leaving his total at 348 and hoping that's enough. Of course, Daniel Hurlock, to be fair, missed 3 rounds on round 2. That was at Snetterton earlier on in the season. So I guess it balances it out, but it doesn't make it any less nail-biting for Matt Richards, who we are told is watching here tonight. So it's a unique situation, one that doesn't come around very often.
It is not. Of course, he hit a huge milestone last time out at Silverstone, but he's stagnant on 348 points. Could he take a reigning title, or is Dan Hurlock going to be able to tip the scales? 34 points he needs in order to beat the Richards & Co driver. Of course, those were the guys that took the team's championship over the course of last week. Thomas O'Leary in third, of course, you can see mathematically capable with 63 points on offer over the course of this evening, but realistically it's going to be difficult for him to win. Callum Cripps, Dan Carroll round off the top 5 after very respectable seasons from themselves. Ross McGregor, John Monroe, Callum Wilson, Lewis Redshaw and Ryan Elliott round off a very hotly contested fight inside the top 10. As I say, the team standings are all wrapped up. Richards & Co have been completely dominant out in front. 670.5 points see them seal the team's championship, but Rocket Simsport and RSR fighting quite heavily over second place. That's been an ongoing battle for quite some time, something we touched on over the course of Silverstone, with them only being separated by 12.5 points. Could be very, very spicy indeed. DMA and Calamity Motorsport, the top 5, with Drake Racing in 6th. Team Ballast, of course, an independent entry in 7th, with Kings Racing, Team Agani and Team Bucci, the 10 teams, of course, on the field today. Should be a lot of fun today, Ewan. Again, I have to say, it's a championship finale that I've never actually got to commentate on before, because obviously it's just that weird of a scenario. But Matt Richards, after taking his milestone of 151 races over the course of the last few years, he's done a lot, and well, of course, he's battled his way around this beautiful season. Donington Park, Snetterton, Thruxton, Oulton Park, Brands Indy for the first time before we went to Croft, Knockhill, Donington Park again, Silverstone National, and once again we're back at Brands Hatch for round number 10 here today. Of course, slightly delayed season, we've had a couple of issues, but we're finally here. And yeah, Ewan, as we said, it's a weird one, but all eyes are going to be on Dan Hurlock today, because he's got to deliver.
Yeah, he's going to be the one most likely to take over in the standings from Matt Richards, who holds the number 1, and will look to take 2 seasons in a row. By the way, Thomas O'Leary can also take the title here tonight, but needs about 54 points or something along those lines, so that's going to be difficult to manage. 54 points is the equivalent to finishing first, second and second, and of course needs to gain the points on Daniel Hurlock as well. Hurlock needs to be inside the top 5 in all 3 of the, well, he can finish outside the top 5 in one of the races, I suppose, but even so, he needs an average finishing position, if you like, if inside the top 5 by the end of the day, and does need one of those to be inside the top 4 as well if he's going to average it out. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a unique situation and something that we've not experienced before, but I can't imagine many of these drivers will have done either, and I wonder how that's going to change the way that the other drivers race Daniel Hurlock here today, because everyone will know he just needs points, and it's not like a situation where his rival is out there and can gain, Matt Richards could gain some points himself. It's totally not like that. It is all down to Hurlock. And so how hard are they going to race him today? Are they going to treat it normally or not?
Yeah, that is the question. I suppose it's a question of how much they like Dan Hurlock, I suppose. But yeah, definitely. I mean, for a lot of these drivers, I mean, they've got their own independent battles to be fighting for. Rocket Simsport, RSR drivers, they're out there. Of course, Dan Hurlock is a part of RSR himself, so he's obviously pushing for both the drivers and for the second place in the teams. But, everyone's got their own separate battles to be fighting for. So I think, for the most part, people are going to be quite selfish. They're driving their own race. They're not in the championship fight, so, why should they really care? But yeah, we'll wait and see, of course. 3 hectic races as usual. We've got 3 races. We go into race number 1. decided, of course, by the grid order set by their qualifying they've just done. Race number 2 is the results of race 1, and then race number 3 is a spinning reel reverse grid between top 6 and top 12. We'll run you through the grid order as soon as we can. Of course, you can see all the drivers eagerly anticipating themselves to get onto the grid, and there they are rolling for their formation lap. It was Dan Herlock taking a point for pole position, so that's one extra step towards the top. Scott Sovic will join him on row 1 with Callum Wilson and Ryan Elliott 3 and 4. Good qualifying for RSR. Thomas O'Leary rounds off the top 5 with Cedar Vire joining him on row 3. Then comes Dylan Platt and Callum Cripps 7th and 8th. Again, incredibly close amongst the top 8 in qualifying. Rounding off the top 10 is Jeffrey Fournier and Thomas Vack. Jack Nichols, Lewis Redshaw, decent qualifying from the pair of them, keeping each other company on row number 6. Of course, Jack Nichols, he's boasted a few number of top 10s. Could he get another one here today as well? Ross McGregor, Luke Mitchell just in behind as we go back towards the front and take a look at Dan Herlock. But I can tell you it was Ross McGregor, Luke Mitchell 13th and 14th. Phil Mulby rounds off the top 15 with Matt Allington, Adam Christopher, Jack London, Jordan Richardson and Matt Chergwin the top 20. And then, of course, a number of drivers in behind that have all managed to put their best lap times in qualifying. Brands Hatch GP though, Ewan, what are we thinking in terms of the overtaking opportunities around here? Is qualifying going to be, well, as important as it, well, is it, you know, as it could show? I mean, obviously Dan Herlock taking pole. Is that going to be the nail in the coffin? Could he easily win this race from pole?
Well, I don't think it's going to be easy, certainly, but I think it is going to be about track position a little bit here tonight. In terms of all of the circuits on this calendar, obviously the touring cars is a category of motorsport known for lots of overtaking happening all at once, but whether that's going to happen at Brands Hatch GP is another question, really. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than that for Herlock, who will lead the field around, but he has got that extra point for the pole position, which has already got it down to 33 points now that he needs to overtake Matt Richards here. And with a win here, and with the leading a lap as well, it could be down to, what, just 12 at the end of the opening round. So that is huge. Herlock is in a great position at the moment, and he cannot afford to let this opportunity slip. He has to finish on the podium here, surely.
Yeah, that is the bare minimum for Dan Herlock. Of course, he has 3 races to get 34 points, which isn't, well, 33 now, of course. So he's not got, he can take his time. He doesn't have to take too many risks. There are plenty of points on offer, but 15 laps ahead of race number 1. We're waiting for the stragglers at the back end of the grid before we go to 5 red lights. And underway for race number 1 of round 10 of the VMO TCUK, powered by VCO. Of course, welcome into anyone that's watching along. It's been a long haul of a championship, starting all the way back in mid-May. We're here for round number 10. It's Herlock on a bid for a championship. Can he dethrone Matt Richards at the top? The lights are on. And we're underway in Brands Hatch. Just a short run towards Paddock Hill Bend, but let's see what Dan Herlock can do. He's on the inside, the slightly dirtier side of the track, but it's a good launch initially. Scott Sovic trying to look to go to the outside, but no way through for now. Callum Wilson trying to go to the outside of Scott Sovic as well, but he's not quite able to find a way through. A little bit wide, it must be said, from Ryan Elliott. Thomas O'Leary with a good launch, looking to go to the inside of Druids Bend. They fly in formation, multiple rows of 2 cars, pretty much like 5 car deep. Pretty much half the grid running side by side in the opening moments, through down the hill towards Graham Hill Bend, and a good start, most importantly, for Dan Herlock.
Very good start, and all he needed to do there was just make sure you get through the opening lap, and that's got to be the aim for all 3 races this evening for Daniel Herlock. Of course, from the front he has made his life a little bit easier, but even so, oh dear, there's a spin in the background, multiple spins, oh, and it hit in the background as well. Don't know who that was, but it's caused chaos in the back of the pack. There's a rear wing off as well, I'm afraid, for Matt Allington, who's gone around and into the Armco barrier. I'm afraid that was a mess in the background. It was clean at the front, I'm afraid, from about 15th on backwards, even from maybe a bit further down than that. It's turned into chaos. There's a lot of damage touring cars around the back of the pack.
Yeah, there is. Not the start we would have wanted, but Brands Hatch is punishing. 1 step over the limit and it will spit you out. But yeah, big names involved. Of course, Jack Nichols, I think, got slightly involved in that. Just so many cars. Christopher, Mitchell Mann potentially as well. We'll hopefully take another look at it just to digest it a little bit better. But for the majority of the top 10, everyone fairly unscathed. We round off 1 lap here, and well, let's take another look. Of course, I think it started all the way here at 30s. Joe Lane. Well, I don't even know. There's 1 car already off, and then obviously it's just a chain reaction effect. There is the Honda Civic, brings it back onto circuit. You have to feel for Joe Lane here, right? Because realistically, there's not really much that he can do apart from slow right down in anticipation of a driver coming back onto the circuit, right?
You say that, but that's exactly what I would have done in that situation. If he's at the back there and he's got no one, and especially when he knows he can't be rear-ended, I would be slowing right down, seeing all that in front of me. I know there is the opportunity to gain places, of course, but you can see those going off in front of you. You might as well take use of it. As I can see the wipers going at the moment. I wonder whether there's going to be rain to play into this one, and whether we're going to get rain here at Brands Hatch. The wipers are certainly going, there's no question about that, but how wet is this going to get? This is throwing an extra bit of a spanner into the works for the championship finale, as Daniel Hurlock needs to score 34 points in the evening. He's already got the pole position point. He's got a point for leading a lap now as well at the end of lap 1, but now he's got rain to contend with. And what on earth does everyone do now?
Yeah, well, of course, at the moment they're all on their slick tyres, whether they went for the option or the primes, depending on their car choice. But now, depends how bad the rain gets. Callum Wilson under a lot of pressure, as you can see from Jeffrey Fournier, who launches the car to the outside. Beautifully done, making the most, of course, of the wet weather. This is what separates the good from the great. Let's take an onboard with Dylan Platt. Of course, there's already a bit of contact. Pushes the car on the outside wide, and then of course it just goes from bad to worse. He's then round, and you've got half the grid behind you. Spin around. Jesus, does he ever want to stop? And then obviously tags one car, and then chaos ensues behind.
Yeah, it was Allington who got into that bit of contact and got tipped around entirely at the very end, and his rear wing eventually came off, and it was still going on in front of Dylan Platt here as he got back going again. But I have to say he may well have done that to himself as the guy in that position, as Thomas O'Leary is down the inside of Ryan Elliott, who's trying to hang on to this position for all he's worth. The top two have gotten away dramatically as a result, but look at the train behind now.
Yeah, indeed, we've got a huge gaggle of cars, and again, could it be, of course, once it gets wet, it becomes slightly more difficult to overtake, because there's essentially one line that starts to form. Anything off it, it's just there's no grip whatsoever. And of course, the unpredictability, you don't know how much grip there's going to be. Lap by lap, corner by corner, it is going to be subject to change. So this is going to be the big divider, the good from the great. As it stands, Hurlock and Sovic have been able to break free, but potentially maybe because Ryan Elliott is ever so slightly off the pace, backing everyone up. But yeah, it takes a lot of skill to drive quick, especially when it's gone from dry to wet in the span of a lap and a half.
It's very difficult conditions. Ed Millward has told us that he doesn't think it's going to get wet enough for wet tyres, but it does look pretty wet to me. I'm going to trust him though, to be honest, because I don't know what's going to be wet enough for these cars. As Jeffrey Fournier makes his way right round the outside of Callum Wilson. Oh, careful, Jeffrey! He's very nearly off the road at turn 1, and he's made a bit of a meal of that, I'm afraid, and he's going to have to fight for this 5th position. It seems maybe a little bit harder than he was expecting before. Round the outside of turn 2. Give him the inside for 3, and he will finally get the place, maybe a couple of corners after he expected. Wonder whether the front wheel drive cars are just enjoying these conditions a little bit more than the rear wheel drive ones, because for example Elliott and Wilson do seem to be struggling a little bit with the likes of Fournier with the front wheel drive, maybe becoming a bit more prominent, but not sure whether there's anything in that. It goes also down to drivers and their confidence in these conditions.
I was going to say, Hurlock and Sovic are both in rear-wheel drive cars. They're doing all right out in front. But yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer rear-wheel drive in the wet to front-wheel drive. I just prefer to have that rotation on the rear end. But I suppose having the trust on the front definitely goes a long way. But yeah, definitely plays into personal preferences. They've been in these cars all season long. They should know how they handle. But considering it is the first wet race of the season, I doubt, these guys have done a lot of practice in the wet weather, because it's the sort of one of the last things you'd expect. So yeah, this could be flying blind for a lot of these drivers. Maybe some of these guys have put in a couple of laps of wet practice, and that could be what they need. Side by side as well, chucking the move to the inside is Cedo Via on Jeffrey Fournier, who initially got off quite well in the wet, but is now starting to trinkle his way backwards.
Only because he keeps getting overtaken. I know that sounds a bit silly, but it's once one car in this train goes through, I think it'd be quite easy to let them all through, and that was what Fournier was in danger of being a victim of. Oh my word, that was Callum Cripps defending from McGregor on the way in towards turn 2, and that was aggressive, pushing the Toyota right to the grass on the right hand side, getting aggressive, but in the end it worked out. It didn't cause him to spin around. There wasn't much contact in the end, and they all got away with it, as Fournier has another go at getting past Callum Wilson.
Yeah, and if you look, the wipers are off. It's already stopped raining. Our live timing is updated to sort of say it's sunny. It's not. It's just not raining anymore. Aidan Millwood has come in to say that it's stopped raining as well. So we're now on to just a bit of a moist, damp track as it stands. So yeah, the grip obviously is going to be getting better the more these cars run over it. So hopefully that's the end of the worst for these guys.
Well, it looks like it is. It's the shortest rain shower I think I've seen ever, though.
It's the UK
because it only lasted about 3 laps and now it's gone again. And it makes you wonder as well, doesn't it, about the rest of this event at Brands Hatch. You know, we're still going to be in England for the remaining 2 races as well. So what is the weather going to do in those final 2 races?
Well, we'll have to find out, won't we? Only time will tell in regards to that one. A little bit further back, we've got Adam Locke fighting away with Dylan Platt. Of course, these two, at least in some regard, of course, Dylan Platt was directly involved with that incident, and of course, Adam Locke as well was ever so slightly involved. We've got side-by-sides here. Jeffrey Fournier battling away with Callum Wilson. This is for the final place inside the top 5. Late on the brakes from the BMW sees him manage to stay ahead for now, but Jeffrey Fournier definitely showing some good pace. We've got Jordan Richardson trying to go to the inside as Mitchell Marm is sent sideways. He's managed to catch it. Fair play again. I have to say, car control is on point for some of these drivers. Very
good car control through turn 2 for Mitchell Marm, and that was quite rude actually from I think it was Garside pushing Willis off the road there entirely at the 3rd corner, but they've gotten away with that and they continue to fight as well. There's a lot of groups going on at the moment, and considering we're only a third of the way into this race, it's quite surprising how spread out the field is actually, but I guess the conditions and a circuit as difficult as this one will do that to you, as Jordan Richardson does make his way down the inside of Mitchell Marm now into the right-hander, and so up another position he goes. Excuse me, that was Mitchell Marm making up a place actually, wasn't it, in the Infinity, as Brewster's going backwards. Haley now down the inside on the run up towards Dingledale, and there's more fighting, this time for 5th place again, as Callum Wilson refuses to give up this place. Yeah, Jeffrey Fournier is being absolutely unrelenting, side by side through the final corner. Of course, that long way round, not ideal because it just goes on forever and ever, and one small little bit of understeer, which is prone. Cold track and slightly damp, you're probably going to wash out wide. So thankfully Fournier decided to think better of that. Of course, he's now having to look forward to attack, backwards to defend. Acedo Via is all over his rear end. No changes as we go up the hill towards Druids, and well, Callum Wilson, as we saw, dipping a wheel into the gravel, so definitely feeling the pressure. And can you blame him, Ewan, because he's got 6 cars queuing up behind him wanting that 5th place? You certainly can't blame him, but it goes back to the point earlier on about the trains being formed in this field, really, because Wilson was up with that fight for 3rd place. If you remember, it was previously headed by Elliott and Thomas O'Leary there as well. But as soon as O'Leary got through, then Callum Wilson just put an end to things, and Fournier's been struggling to get through ever since. Everyone else further back to 11th place is caught on behind, and so we've got 7 cars lined up in a train at least here, going through the right-hander at the GP layout through the forest now. And it's Callum Wilson still leading the train, but it's somewhat of a miracle that Fournier hasn't been able to find his way through so far. Yeah, he's been doing well. Oh, that's probably why. Oh, over the bump going into Dingledale, he's wide. He's onto the grass. Loses only 1 place to Thomas Fack, which, to be fair, not bad considering. You saw going in as someone else is off in the background as well. That's Lewis Cripps. Yeah, Callum Cripps has gone off, so he's lost a ton of a ton of time. And of course, outside of the top 10, Jordan Richardson trying to go to the outside. This is of course on Scott Mitchell Marm, who's later on the brakes into the final corner, and the BMW driver is able to stay ahead. He gets the up and under though, beautifully done in the fight for the last couple of points there. You can see Jack Nichols as well running side by side with his teammate. Back to the battle at the front, because Cedo Vara has lost a couple of places down to 8th. Thomas Fack though making some good gains. He's up into 6th. Yeah, he's had a really good race actually as Thomas Fack so far, and he's just been picking off the places where he can. Cedo Vara's had a decent one as well, kind of running where he qualified really, but just consolidating that position for the moment, and that's what everyone's been doing a little bit further down in this group. It's been further up where the positions have been made, and actually now the rain has stopped, Woolston's pressure is a lot less of a burden on him, I think, because he's found a second. I know that gap is largely created by Fournier going off up at Dingledale on the previous lap, but even so, Wilson has held that gap. Cripps just got things wrong really through the left-hander of Sterling's there, just had a bit of a snap of oversteer, ended up in the grass and a couple of seconds off the group now.
Yeah, of course you could see it. I think just carried a bit too much speed in, was a little bit wide offline, and that's where it's going to be slightly damper than the rest of the track. Of course, it's constantly going to be drying, but ever so slightly offline, and you'll very easily find the car to get us ever so slightly out of shape. So well held, in all fairness to Cripps. Could have been a lot worse, but definitely could be a lot better. Thomas O'Leary on the back of Ryan Elliott. This is the fight for the final place on the podium. New best lap time for Dan Hurlock. Could be getting him you know, an extra couple of points, and of course would be wanting him to win this race, because already he's, well, effectively meant that he only has to finish, well, as it stands, he got a point for pole, he's now a point for leading a lap, you then get a point for fastest lap, so there's 3, and then 20 points, so he's already got, well, if he finishes in the lead, 23 points, which means he only has to finish 5th in race 2 if he wants to take the championship.
Well, does he have the fastest lap is my question.
He just said it, didn't he? 1:29.0.
Well, I suppose the race is not over yet, so
that is true.
We don't know, of course, for the final 6. But for now, yeah, we can give him that point. But yeah, that's a huge step forward, isn't it? A top 5 only needed in race 2 to take the title as well. And it's not good news for Thomas O'Leary either here, really, I'm afraid. He's down, only getting 13 points from this one. And when you need as many as he does, he's still alive mathematically, but it's really not looking likely at the end of this result, even if it was at the start of the day, I suppose. As more battling further back, this time involving Stephen Haley embedded within the middle of this group, and everyone's looking for moves here, even round the back of the Grand Prix layout.
Yeah, of course they're having to search for whatever they can because of the trains that are starting to form. People are having to get a little bit creative. Stephen Haley dipping a wheel into the grass, just pushing a little bit too hard going into Sheen, and then of course Dingledell would like to get themselves up into that crucial 15th place. Of course, that is the position that points go down to all the way to 1, so only half a second off Adam Christopher. That, as I say, is the final points paying position, but a lot of cars all going to be vying for that point, but well, only unfortunately a handful of them are going to be able to get it in the end. You can see there Adam Christopher going for the move on Mitchum to the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. He got squeezed, but he's filled the gap and pushes the Infinity wide. Mitchum trying to keep his foot in, but dips a couple of wheels into the gravel up the hill towards Druids, and an aggressive, but I'd say quite fair move from Christopher.
Yes, it has to be aggressive really around this circuit. You can't make half-hearted moves around Brands Hatch. It's just not going to happen for you, so you've got to turn up that aggression, and there certainly has been a lot of that in the midfield, if you like, from 13th on backwards. This train is really goes right down outside the top 20. That one for 5th place is still somewhat reforming as well, actually, but it is a bit of a Brands Hatch trait that we're seeing at the moment. Field relatively spread out, but also we are seeing quite big groups emerge when you get stuck behind someone. No one's stuck behind Dan Hurlock though at the moment. The ballast clearly not weighing him down very much right now, and that will make everyone else worry for the second race as well, because normally the race winner from the first race, you know, obviously has the track position, but they do have a lot of weight in that, and they struggle with that. However, Hurlock's dealt with quite a lot of weight quite well here in the opening race, so it makes you wonder what he can do in race 2 as well. Can he take 2 wins even? Yeah,
well, potentially. I mean, that would definitely be good. And then, of course, into race 3, dependent on the severity of the reverse grid, when he takes his option softer compound tyre choice. Of course, if it's still dry at that point, we don't know if it is going to be. But yeah, then of course he'll be even quicker. Slightly off the road, I think in the background is Jack Nichols. He's lost the place to Brewster. Now a new fast lap set by Richardson, taking the point away from Hurlock. It's very, very close in fairness, only a couple of tenths of a swing. But I suppose with each lap that goes by, the track is getting quicker, which means we should start to see an influx of fast lap times coming in.
Well, we've certainly had a bit of an increase in speed, if you like, in terms of best laps at the moment. So a little bit uncommon for this stage in the race, but even so, Hurlock will want that extra point, and that, as you say, would bring it down to just 11 points needed from the final 2 races. And even if you were to split that down into the final 2 races, that's what, a 10th and 11th. He really is in a good place, is Daniel Hurlock, but he really won't want to let this go to the reverse grid race, of course, so we'll see how race 2 goes in a little bit of time. Thankfully for him, these are the guys who are fighting for the podium spot, and they're a long way behind the race leader.
Yeah, quite a way back. I mean, at the, what is it, 5.5 seconds, let's put it as. This is what happened to Jack Nichols though, a little bit too much speed going in, and already, this is what I mean about washing out at the exit of the final corner. You just get a boatload of gravel onto the grass, and well, of course the driver on the tighter line again has a shorter distance to travel, so is making up double time on you for making that mistake. Easy one to make though, I suppose. We've all been there, we've all done it, and unfortunately it's Nichols that got the short end of the stick there, now outside the points and well into 17th.
That was understeer o'clock, wasn't it, really, at the final corner, I'm afraid. But that, as you say, that often happens at the final corner, actually. And the thing that makes it worse is the fact that the gravel's there and it really drags you out there as well. So it's a really unideal corner when you've got understeer. It's very frustrating as well, I've got to say, as we go side by side now for 11th between Mitchell and Richardson. That was Richardson trying to go round the outside, couldn't quite do it on that occasion. Was already teams champions, these guys, Richardson Co Racing, and so not much to worry about in that respect, but Richardson still looking for this 11th place, which seemingly unable to get here on lap 12.
Yeah, not quite able to. Of course, he is the technically the fastest man on track. We saw him set the fastest lap time of the race not too long ago on the previous lap, but yeah, every little helps, and well, with Mitchell just ahead of him, he can see it, but overtaking has proven to be limited around Brands Hatch. You have to be very careful with it, but with only a handful of laps left to go, definitely time is a luxury for Richardson. He can't wait around for too long. We have had a spin at some point on the circuit, yellow in sector 2, so we'll check in on that if of course it needs to be. There is Stephen Haley, worked his way into the points. I think after Nichols' his issues, he's slowly but surely picked his way past, and now on the back of Christopher. Ross McGregor is showing as a DNF, which is definitely not good for Rocket Simsport in their bid for second in the teams.
And he was running in the top 10 as well. It was a good opening round, actually, or a good opening race, I should say, for McGregor. It was a good start. Anyway, good first 2/3. I'm afraid the points are played out on the end of lap 15, and McGregor's not going to see any of them because he's gone DNF. I reckon that could be a disconnection, or it could be down to what that yellow flag was about you were talking about. Although I'm not sure he was in the right section of the track to really, for that to be him. This is a replay with Thomas O'Leary, who needs a lot of points today, of course. See what happened to him through the opening corner. Well, looks all fine through there, and into the second turn looks all right as well. So not sure what has happened to him. By the way, does need to finish at least 4th to keep his championship hopes alive here in this season, as slim as they are at the moment. He seems all fine, still running 4th place for now.
Yeah, no issues to report unless we've just gone really too far back and it's happened. No, we're all good. Just a small mishap, and yeah, Thomas O'Leary is all good. For all the O'Leary fans out there, whether it's Ewan or Thomas, whichever one tickles your fancy more. No, I'll be your fan, don't worry. I've got your back, Ewan, no worries, mate. No, absolutely no worries. Stephen Haley as well, managing to work his way into 14th place, essentially doubling his points all for race number 1. We're about to start the penultimate lap 14 of 15. Dan Hurlock, he's been in control of this race. Of course, he will once again have the ballast for race 2, but as we've said, it's not really phased him too much. What we have got, though, is a very good battle here for 12th place. You can see Richardson fighting away with, oh, this is for 10th even, Mitchell fighting away with Richardson. So even better, sandwiched, of course, in between the two teammates in the Infinities of Mitchell and Mitchell Mum. And now to the outside goes Scott. He's going to try and pick his way past Richardson, but it's always difficult looking forwards and backwards, especially when they're teammates.
It is, and this is, of course, the remnants of that battle for 11th we were just saying, but with McGregor now out, this is for 10th place, and Richardson doesn't want to give up that 11th that he's recently got. Mitchell Marr wants to take it away from him, and did with a big dive at turn 2, went too deep though, and now it's under pressure again from Richardson, who couldn't reply down at turn 3. Now he'll be under pressure in towards the south bank, and it will be Richardson overtaken by the Cooper of Christopher on the inside now through the left-hander. Not going to happen on the run down towards Hawthorns, and then coming up from behind, it's Haley in the Honda as well. He doesn't really have anywhere to go though on that back straight as he makes his way towards the right-hander. There he goes through the shot, and it is Richardson who loses out again. So from a potential 10th down to a definite 13th for Richardson on the penultimate lap.
Yeah, not the way you want to be closing off the race, but still not over until it's over. Well, that's wishful thinking, I'd say, more than anything. Stephen Haley fighting away with Cam Brewster. This is for 14th, but I suppose just trying to keep themselves in contention. Ryan Elliott taking the fast lap of the race. Big snap of oversteer from Brewster, though. Haley and potentially London are going to get themselves past. London goes to the outside and finds his way past. So a small mistake there. It's cost Brewster a point.
has, but he might well get it back pretty soon, because London and Haley are going to fight this one to the very end as well for the final couple of points. London up forward is going to go down the inside there on the front straight. That would have been so brave, too brave probably, and so he stays behind, and so does everyone indeed in those final places, as Daniel Hurlock makes his way onto the Grand Prix section of Brands Hatch for the final time in this race. He's been really close down by Sovic in these final laps, by the way, but it's going to be too little too late, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. What's happened to Ross McGregor? This is, of course, and too wide, and then over the grass, out of control. Front end lives up, and into the barrier. That brings a very swift end to his race. But yeah, only about half a lap left to go for Dan Hurlock, and well, what a race when it's going to be.
Yeah,
or maybe not.
Bring it down. Well, let's. Oh no, he's lost it.
What's happened to Dan Hurlock? We'll get a replay as soon as we can, but we should see Scott Sovic across the line. It's been a late charge from the BMW. He's been in his rearview mirror for the entire race. The Team Balance Esports driver is going to snatch the win at the end of this race to take victory race 1 here at Brands Hatch. A mighty effort. You've got to be in it till the end. Dan Hurlock takes second place. Still great points in his pursuit for the championship. Ryan Elliott, Thomas O'Leary and Callum Wilson round off the top 5, but you and I want to work out what's happened to Dan Hurlock.
Well, that is a bizarre moment. He's still picked up 20 points, and so it'll be down to 14 in the standings. He only needs 14 more points, which would mean a podium in the next race would be enough for him to take the title in race 2. But I wonder whether that was even tactical from him. No, not really. He was just losing time. And through Dingledale, he got onto the grass, let Sovic through, and he finishes second instead.
Wow. I mean, Sovic was putting a lot of pressure on him, was losing a ton of time, and, well, that would cost him a couple of points. Of course, into the next race, he's going to be carrying less ballast, so it's going to be easier, theoretically, for him to score a podium, but let's talk through the finishing order. Scott Sovic, Dan Hurlock, Ryan Elliott, good points for RSI in their bid for second in the team's round off the podium. Thomas O'Leary, just keeping his championship hopes alive in 4th. Callum Wilson, top 5, with Thomas Fack, even more points for RSI in 6th. Jeffrey Fournier, an up and down race in 7th, with Sido Vaya, Lewis Redshaw and Luke Mitchell rounding off the top 10. Of course, behind that, it was a very heated battle. Scott Mitchell-Marm, Jordan Richardson, 11th and 12th, with Adam Christopher, Stephen Haley and Jack London, the final points finishing position. Cam Brewster narrowly missing out after that mistake going on to the final lap, with Jack Nichols, Ben Willis, Callum Cripps and Dylan Platt, the top 20. The rest of the drivers as follows: Sam Dowman, Adam Locke, Matt Churgwin, the last of those that finished on the lead lap. Johannes Leppert and Matt Allington round off the top 25 with a lot of DNFs. McGregor, Garside, Morris, Lane and Blumsheen, the 30 drivers that took to the field. Unfortunately, only 25 of them, 31 took to the field. Only unfortunately 25 of them, with Phil Morby rounding off at the back of the field. Ladies and gentlemen, that really was a very spicy race over the course of 15 laps. We had rain, we had sun, we had a bottle right at the end of the lead, but we'll be back in a few moments' time. Race 2 coming up soon. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, as race 2 of round 10 of the VMO TCUK Championship, powered by VCO, is about to get itself underway. The chaos that ensued over the course of race 1 definitely shows good prospects for race 2 and race 3. Still here in the commentary booth, myself, Zach Sweeney, Ewan O'Leary, alongside me with Mike Yao on the production. Ewan, well, we've got a championship to decide and, well, plenty of potential in the midfield.
We do. Lots of great battles during that last race. Lots of very long trains, actually, as it turned out, as the field got quite spread out there. But the important part was Daniel Hurlock securing himself 19 points. 1 for securing pole position, 1 for leading a lap, and 17 for finishing second in a race where he really should have won, in all honesty. But that brings it down to just 15 points now that he needs. A podium will do in this next race, and he'll be crowned champion.
Yeah, and of course we touched on it very briefly towards the end of race 1, because it was a very brief end to race 1. We couldn't really talk about it much, but potentially losing the win has helped him into this into race 2 in terms of securing the championship, because win or second place, race 2 he needed a podium. Now he comes into this one, of course, with the success ballast and things. Race 1 and qualifying ballast are determined by your championship positions from 1st down to 10th, and then of course race 2 is based on the finishing order of race 1, and race 3 the same for race 2 as well. So instead of getting the full 75 kilos for winning race 1, he's now only going to be carrying 66, and yeah, it's only 9 kilos, but every little helps, right? A podium's a podium at the end of the day, and if he can make his life easier in securing that, then he'll win the championship.
You say it doesn't matter much, but we did actually have a driver with 75 kilos in that first race, because Matt Richards not here, so he didn't actually have the full ballast. Instead, it was Hurlock who had the most. He still put it on pole, so clearly around here it's not a very ballast heavy circuit, as particularly I found a couple of weeks ago Silverstone seemed to be very wearing on those who did well in race 1. They really didn't do very well in race 2, and you saw the championship contenders in race 1 at Silverstone last time out really didn't do very well. Matt Richards finished with only 5 points for 11th place. Hurlock only finished in 9th, and Thomas O'Leary was the best of the top 3, and he only finished 6th. And obviously those 3 were the 3 with the biggest amount of ballast at the start of that event. So that was very different clearly to this, which is what we're seeing at Brands Hatch. Ballast not very important clearly, or not as important. You can deal with it, but then again, we don't know how full ballast works. So if Hurlock can just lose that 1 place, and he did there, he does lose 3 points, but also he loses 9 kilograms for the next race, and he knows that either way, whether he was first or second, a podium would have been enough. And with that second place starting position, the track position that comes with that, he's in a great place to wrap this title up before the peril of the finale and the reverse grid race.
Yeah, we've been talking obviously in the break between race 1 and race 2 about we would never ever want it to come down to the chaos of a reverse grid. Of course, you've now got 2 chances to get it done, and you'd rather get it done on the first one, so much so that race 3 is a nice breeze. Maybe you can enjoy your essentially confirmed championship and just relax, rather than bottling race 2 again. Race 3, you're starting anywhere from 6th to 12th. Of course, if he wins, well, of course he wouldn't, because then he'd win the championship. But you know what I mean. He's in amongst the carnage, and then you're pressurised to score points, because there are too many things that can go wrong for our liking, and definitely for Dan Hurlock's liking as well out on track. So, yeah, preferably he'd want to get a podium done in this race, but that's by no means a guarantee.
It isn't. The first job, of course, is getting through lap 1. And then sort of go from there, but we may know from fairly early on that he can distance the others in this second race in terms of the field, because it got spread out very quickly in the opening race. And if he only required a podium in that first race, for example, we would have known from quite far out, even though he was losing time at the end, that he was going to secure that podium. So it could be a similar situation. It may not be, because of course everyone behind has got a lot less weight on than he has, and that could be a problem during the second race. But I think track position and the lack of effectiveness of this weight is going to really help him.
Yeah, I think so as well. And just the fact that he goes well at Brands Hatch, it seems. I mean, when we came here for the first time, he got 2 seconds in a row. Bit of a drop-off in race 3, but he definitely has some good pace. And either motivated or pressurized by the threat of a championship. We're in that crossover session between warm-up and the race. We'll bring you up, of course, the grid as soon as we can while they're on the formation lap. But, of course, if you can basically go and look at the grid. It's just the finish order of race 1 anyway. So, but yeah, basically, most importantly, it's Dan Hurlock in second place. And does he go for the win or does he just sit in second?
Well, I would sit in second personally, and maybe he's going to view this one a little bit differently, but I would personally sit in second. Maybe try and lead a lap, just get that extra point of security, but at the end of the day, that extra point doesn't really matter at all, because, even 15 points will be enough. He doesn't need 16 or 18, a position with an extra fastest lap, an extra leading lap, so I personally wouldn't bother with that either. Stay in line, try and get away with Sovic as best as you possibly can, and create a situation like we had in race 1, where they were very secure in their positions. They knew that going on to that last lap they were going to finish 1 and 2 basically. It was just a case of which order.
Yeah, pretty much. So of course, both of them looking very quick. Of course, looking in behind that battle, Ryan Elliott, Thomas O'Leary, Callum Wilson, all on their softer option tyre for race 2. So that is something to look out for. Scott Sovic took the win on the last lap in race 1, sees him take pole for race 2. Dan Hurlock, is it going to be the championship win there in second? Of course, Ryan Elliott, Thomas O'Leary, Callum Wilson, the top 5. Thomas Schvack joins him on row 3. Jeffrey Fournier and Sido via the front 4 rows of the field. Of course, in behind, Lewis Redshaw, Luke Mitchell round off the top 10. And Scott Mitchell-Marm and Jordan Richardson, of course, after their very heated fight over the course of race 1, settled their positions in 11th and 12th. The rest of the grid, Adam Christopher, Stephen Haley, Jack London, the final points paying positions. The Cam Brewster in 16th place, rounding off the 8th row of the grid for race number 2. Still plenty of cars to get through, of course. Jack Nichols, Ben Willis, Callum Cripps and Dylan Platt rounding off the top 20. Again, a lot of these cars involved in early lap shenanigans. Hopefully we don't have a repeat of that over the course of race number 2. Sam Dowman, Adam Locke share the 11th row of the grid with Matt Churgwin and Johannes Leppert, 23rd and 24th place respectively, trying to move their way potentially towards any points that they could score in race 2. Matt Allington, Phil Garside, Joe Lane and Phil Morby, of course, who DNF'd and was last at the end of race number 1, of course, is now the final driver to take to the field after a couple of people, I believe, probably calling it a day. But a lot on the cards for this second race. Ewan, as I say, we've got a couple of drivers in behind Ryan Elliott and Callum Wilson taking to their option tyre for race 2, which probably makes Dan Hurlock's day a little bit more awkward in this second race.
Yeah, it does. This, as I said at the start, this whole situation's kind of awkward because it's a situation we've not been in before with regards to the championship at the top of the tree, but it sort of filters down through everybody, and I just wonder how that first race is going to affect this second one, and whether we're going to see a similar start to this second race that we got to the first, because there was a little bit of carnage at the start, it's fair to say, not for the guys at the front, but for those in the midfield. Will that transpire again? We wonder in the second race. Of course, the first job for Hurlock is going to be to get through that opening lap and then see where he is for the remaining 15 laps of this second race.
Yeah, he's got it all to lose, but thankfully his teammate is just behind him, Ryan Elliott, so maybe he can build a bit of a security barrier for him and just keep the rest of them behind while Dan Hurlock goes and secures a podium place. But as we say, yeah, lap 1 is always a sight for carnage. That is the first hurdle to get over. Scott Sovic, of course, is out there. He's just trying to do his best to take victory. Race number 2 here in Brands Hatch is about to get itself underway. We'll see the lights come on. We'll see them go out, and 15 more laps of racing action is about to get itself underway for race 2, round 10 of the VMO TCUK Championship, powered by VCO. Of course, we are up and running once more in Brands Hatch, and a good start from the front row. Of course, Dan Hurlock, I think, already pulling alongside for the race lead going into Paddock Hill Bend. Of course, he's not shy at all, but a championship deciding race potentially for the RSR machine. He is going for it, not backing down at all. Scott Sovic gives him the space on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. We now rise our way up the hill towards Druids. Outside line for Dan Hurlock. He's a little bit shaky on the exit, a little bit of oversteer, but down the hill towards turn number 3 at Graham Hill Bend, he's going to take the lead. Dan Hurlock, no caution about him at all.
No, not really. Gives the room a little bit to Sovic there, but takes the lead. His teammate Elliott there was trying to get in the way of everybody, but it's not really worked. Callum Wilson has got through. Thomas O'Leary has as well, although he has gone backwards and got overtaken by Wilson. Jeffrey Fournier's through Redshaw as well. Thankfully, it's been a cleaner start, I think, through the first 4 turns of this race than it was in the second one. But what a disaster for Elliott, down to 7th place. Thomas Bach, his teammate, is in there as well for Arisaris. He goes side by side towards Hawthorns. They'll sort it out just about, will they? It was London, Jack London with his hands full through Hawthorns there, but they all survive.
Yeah, for now, I suppose. But yeah, a lot of carnage in the background. You can see fighting away. That I believe is potentially Christopher Vire, all fighting away. You can see there on the back of Nichols, I think, is Ben Willis fighting for the final points paying position halfway through the field though. Ryan Elliott in 7th place. Oh, that's carnage. And I think that was Nichols going around potentially with Willis. I think they had contact. There is a BMW stricken facing backwards. There's even more. And while that poor MSV board has gone flying, so has a couple of cars as well. That is not the way we want to round off lap 1.
Yeah, Jack Nichols was one of them involved. Richardson as well, who we saw a lot of in the lower portion of the top 10 in the last race. He won't be achieving that again, I don't think, because it's a disaster. Oh, and another disaster in the background as well for a couple of drivers. But, well, a busy end to that opening lap of the race, it seems, as Dan Hurlock takes the lead and takes more than a second's lead as well through the end of these opening laps. But those behind have all got less weight than him, of course, and this is where the field will stay a bit more punched than it did in the opening race.
Yeah, a couple of cars running side by side through CEST as they rise up over the site at inclination. Adam Christopher fighting away with Sido Vire and now Scott Mitchell-Mum, who picks his way to the inside as they run their way towards Hawthorns. Not really anything happening there, but this is what happened. Jack Nichols fighting away, of course, with the Cupra of Willis. There's the move from Richardson, sends it in deep, and then, well, Jack Nichols, I think, just got a massive snap of oversteer, and with it being lap 1, there's about half the grid in behind them, and then just this happens.
So oversteer, I think he got tagged there by one of the Cupras.
Maybe.
That's why he went around. I would guess. I didn't think it was one of the Cupras, I'm sure, but it didn't look like Adam Christopher's car to me, but it may have been. So I don't know, but I think he got tagged around there. I don't think that would happen normally on your own, as Dan Hurlock secures. Well, he doesn't secure another point, but he does at least put himself in the conversation for one. And by the way, for leading a lap, he will now have gotten a point immediately, so now he only needs 40 in this event, and what an amount of points he's already got here. It's been a great start to the Brands Hatch event for Daniel Hurlock as he continues to lead the way. But let's have a look at this incident further back all over again. It was side by side in front of these guys. Sam Downman's going to sort of arrive onto this. Yeah, I think it's that Cupra there. It's not Christopher, it's further back than that. That sort of dark blue Cupra tips Nichols around, and then everyone further back has to avoid. Sam Dowman was one of them, but unfortunately tags the Infinity and goes straight into the wall himself.
Yeah, not really much that he can do in that one. Because again, it's just coming at him so quickly, and it's not a case in race 1 where you can slow down out of, you know, security of not being rear-ended, because Damon didn't quite have that luxury and now finds himself 28th place. And at last, I suppose for Hurlock, when we said he might be able to secure second, he just said, "No, I want the win," and the best way to stay out of trouble is by leading by 2.5 seconds.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a risk that I wouldn't have taken on the opening lap, I've got to say, going side by side with Sovic as he did. But he clearly felt that it was worth it, and it paid off. It was a calculated risk, but it did pay off in the opening laps, and now you can see why, because Sovic is really struggling with that 75 kilos. This is the onboard from Ben Willis, by the way, who we believe to be the one who tagged Nichols, who went around the outside of him through Dingledale. Then there was the contact further up front from Richardson, and then we're going to see the slowing. Then there's that bit of contact with Nichols. So Willis is the one who tags around Nichols, as I suspected it was, and so he's the one who sort of kicks that all off. But it's nobody's fault really. It's just a concertina, really, isn't it? And not anyone really could have done anything about it.
Yeah, car in front slows down because they have to, because they've got a car on their outside. The car behind doesn't quite be able to slow down because of that. And then, yeah, everyone just closes up together. Ryan Elliott with a good run on the outside of the BMW. That's, of course, Scott Sovic. Luke Mitchell now getting himself into the mix, trying to go the long way around this fast right-hander at Hawthorns. It's the very difficult line to take, and he's proven that by doing a bit of rallycross. He's completely round. Thankfully, Thomas Fack is able to avoid him. Luke Mitchell, oh my word!
Oh no! Oh dear! Well, that is a disaster for everybody now. It's become everybody's problem, and the field will be spread apart massively as a result of this. Dan Hurlett will be loving it at the front of the field, but what a mess that was. A lot of big contenders there for top 10s and reverse grid poles maybe taken out of contention through that, and well, a lot of DNFs afterwards as well, as you might expect.
Yes, of course. Let's take another look. It all starts here. There's a little bit of contact, but in all fairness, I think it's Mitchell just being a little bit too ambitious on the outside. He just about gets it stopped, and then his teammate arrives on the scene. They tag each other. He's on his side, flipping over, and then, yeah, so many more cars behind get involved. Could have been worse, but could have been a lot better, I suppose.
That's a position you never want to find yourself in there. It's rolling backwards down the circuit, in the middle of the circuit, with no real indication as to whether you should turn to the left or the right or stay where you are. Very difficult situation indeed. Jack Nicholls sort of arrived on this just in behind a few, and oh dear, well, he saw that coming from a mile away. That was already, it had happened about 10 seconds ago when they got there, but unfortunately the Cooper in front got it all wrong into Westfield Bend, and Jack Nicholls piled in as well.
Yeah, the typical sim racing case of yellow flag is an opportunity and not a flag of caution, whereby a yellow flag means that someone's round, which means there's a place to be gained, which means they go flat out. We've seen it time and time again where people just think, yeah, let's just floor it, let's see what happens, you know, just why not, YOLO, and then they very quickly suffer the consequences of it. Yellow flag is there to tell you to slow down, mate. This is on board with Scott Mitchell-Mum, arrives on the scene, he brakes, but can't really avoid that. I mean, he doesn't really know which way his teammate is going to be going. Is it going to be to the left? Is it going to be to the right? He tried to delay it as long as possible, and in doing so found himself, well, to be fair, he landed it, but it'd have done better with two less spins. And then there's more. 3 Kings Racing, that they've just, yeah.
Well, they've got all their cars in a pile there.
Little reunion.
At Westfield Bend. And to be fair, he wasn't even on the racing line, was he? But still got piled into there. So that just shows you how badly wrong that went at Westfield Bend, because everybody just piled in. And as you say, it's another case of yellow flags being seen as an opportunity, I'm afraid, rather than a need to slow down. And there certainly was a need to slow down there and not do it on the grass as well, as we saw, unfortunately. So that was a real shame, really, to see everybody's race end in that way. A lot of people's race and a lot of contact down there. So the field now very spread out. The top 17 also have gotten away with this race so far in terms of staying out of trouble, but everybody else behind has got into some sort of issue. Dan Hurlock still leads, but not by a long way. Callum Wilson looking for this win here, and he's looking threatening as well. Yeah,
to be fair, Callum Wilson's done a good job of closing that gap down. Dan Hurlock had it up by, what, 2.5, going on 3 seconds. Of course, Wilson, this is his softer tyre choice at race, which means obviously he's lighter weight as well, because he finished lower down than Dan Hurlock in race 1, and he's got softer tyres, so you'd imagine that he's going to close the gap. Now, if you're Hurlock, do you let Callum Wilson through, or do you fight it for the win? Because first, second, championship's a championship.
It is, but there's a danger he falls off the podium here, and he's already defending as well. Only needs 14 points now, of course, since he's led that lap, and possibly even 13 if that fastest lap holds up, in which case 4th would be enough. But even Brian Elliott's catching up. Hurlock clearly wants this win though, and he's been pushed there slightly by Callum Wilson, who moves to his outside now as we go towards the halfway mark in this race. Hurlock's got a huge job to hold on to the win.
Yeah, he does. Inside line, a little bit of a lock-up, the up and under potentially from Wilson, but no changes. He actually does defend going into Westfield. This is great news for Lewis Redshaw.
Oh,
Gets the up and under, finds the space, a little bit of a twitch as well from the Infinity. The two BMWs are side by side as they run their way through Sheen. There's a little kink then in towards Dingledell. Callum Wilson, I think, is going to be forced to concede, otherwise he's at risk of being offline. Now we've got O'Leary, potentially Ryan Elliott into the mix as well. Herlock is defending this lead for his life, and I suppose now he's in too deep. He's got to, because if he lets go of it, he's got a risk of falling off the podium.
He could fall even further as well. It could be even dangerous for him, actually. The good thing for him is that he's got Elliott, one of his teammates here, and you wouldn't imagine that he will overtake Dan Herlock. So he'll finish at least 4th in this situation right now, I would imagine. And that as long as he holds the fastest lap and keeps the fastest lap, then 4th would be enough if he holds on to the fastest lap. But I'm not sure whether he will or not. It could come down to that point here for Dan Herlock, and I'm not sure whether he's going to get it or not. There's of course the other issue of holding on to these positions right now, because the harder they fight, the more they're going to invite guys further back to join in, like Jeffrey Fournier even, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it just depends how much time they lose. Side by side once again, you can see it's Redshaw trying to go the long way around through Surtees. He's kept his foot in quite nicely, of course utilising the agility that he gets from a lighter car. It's now a drag race, a slight little dip downhill before once again you're rising up through Hawthorns. It's Herlock on the outside, and there's Callum Wilson trying to squeeze through the gap as well. Beautifully done, great opportunity. Off.
Wow! And he gets back onto the road in 5th place. It's a disaster for Daniel Herlock, and now Ryan Elliott tries to help him out.
He's doing his best, but how much can he do? Dan Herlock falls to the back end of the top 5, considering how big of an off that nearly was. He's done well to keep that under wraps, and that could have been the championship chance fading away from him in race 2. Of course, Thomas O'Leary fighting away with Ryan Elliott, that's for 2nd, and if Ryan Elliott can back these guys up so much so that Herlock's back into contention, a podium is still on with just under half the race to go.
He's only scoring 11 right now, needs 13 points does Daniel Herlock, and he's only scoring 11, so would still be 2 points short at the end of this race, and then the peril of the reverse grid would come into play. But I don't know if he's got any damage right now, but he's certainly got a lot of weight on board, and he is struggling against those around him.
He definitely is, and you can see that. I think that track position is going to cost him. Ryan Elliott defending quite nicely on Thomas O'Leary, who tries to get the up and under, but once again another Constantina effect, and what it's done is it's helped Herlock with that backwards momentum. They're now flying formation, 2 rows of 2. Wilson's able to keep Herlock at bay for now. They run single file through Surtees, but I have to say Elliott, being a really good Minister of Defence, he's just doing everything he can to keep his teammate in contention, slow them all down to his pace.
Does it look good for now? Is it going to be good for later though? Because look at who's catching up here. Jeffrey Fournier is nearly there, and then there's another train with Christopher Sovic and Vac, both who may get involved. All of whom may get involved. Cedar Vaz is not too far away. Platt as well in 11th. Will this allow everyone to catch up and give Daniel Herlock the real possibility of falling outside the top 10, maybe even missing out on a reverse grid race and struggling to score points here? There's a real risk and reward going on right now for Elliott, who's doing a good job at holding them back, but is it even a good idea?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they're in communication with each other, telling each other this is the best plan of action, but you're right, if Herlock falls outside of the top 6, there is a chance he won't benefit from the spinny wheel reverse grid race 3. Side by side for 2nd place, the Honda Civic of O'Leary trying to go the long way around, but it's late on the brakes for Ryan Elliott, who keeps it under wraps through Panic Hill Bend, but now it's an even bigger task into Druids. The space opens up for Ryan Elliott as he fills the gap into turn number 2. It's late on the brakes from him, but even later from O'Leary, who's under pressure, loses the place to the BMW. Callum Wilson very nicely picks his way into 3rd.
I just can't help but feel like this wasn't a very good idea for Elliott to do this for Daniel Herlock, because Herlock right now is in big danger of losing points. If I was Elliott, I would have dropped to the back of the group and become a rear gunner for Herlock, because he still can win the title with 4th place and the fastest lap, and the obviously leading point, point for leading a lap that he got earlier on in this one. If he holds the fastest lap, then 4th would be enough, and Ryan Elliott would be much better served as rear gunner. It's too late now though. Fournier is right there and could get involved. You don't know what he's going to do in terms of a top 5 for Ford maybe, so you've got to watch out for him, and Herlock will be watching out for a few others catching soon as well.
Oh. What a race this is again. We have still got race 3 for the championship to go down, worst case scenario for Herlock, but He doesn't want it to get to that, and sort of putting ourselves in his shoes, we wouldn't want that for ourselves either. So ideally it needs to get all done and dusted in the next 5 laps of racing here at Brands Hatch. RSR are doing everything in their power, of course. With Rocket Sim Sport not really having the best air in the office, they're fairly secure in their fight for second in the team. So now all their focus, I'd say, is probably on making sure Herlock takes the Drivers' Championship as well. It's been a season-long battle between Herlock and Richard, side by side potentially, as Wilson looks to go for the move for second. But obviously now it's equaled itself out. They're both going to be competing in 27 of the 30 races this season. So it's all fair game, and essentially Herlock needs to prove that he's the better driver of the two all season long.
It is, and how is this for a bit of poetic symmetry, by the way? On the race, on the round that Daniel Herlock wasn't there, Matt Richards scored 33 points, giving Herlock a 34 needed. So basically, over the races, the 8 races that they both did, they only were 1 point apart over the course of those 8 rounds. That's how close it's been. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but it's been a really close season. Only 1 point separates them over the 8 races that they over the 8 rounds. Sorry, that they both did in that season. It's up to Herlock now to just do 1 point better than Richards did on Herlock's round away. And right now Herlock is just 2 points shy from doing that right now. Needs 13, has 11 at the moment in this race.
He needs a couple more. He needs to find some places. He's about a quarter of a second off another points paying position, which as it stands, yeah, would be enough. But O'Leary isn't going to be too interested in giving him that place. He wants that second place if he can. Lewis Redshaw has just completely ran off with things out in front. O'Leary trying to get that podium place back. Elliott, if this is the plan for RSR, he's doing a damn good job of it. Herlock pushing the limits but carrying the burden of the weight. There's contact as Wilson sends the move. It's very aggressive. That's one way to get yourself in a second.
Exactly what he needed to do, because Elliott's not going to give these places up very easily, but he is noticeably slower than Wilson, who had a really good start actually, got himself up the order early on, and has since, I'm afraid, not quite shown the same pace or not quite the same urgency in terms of getting through on Elliott, unfortunately. So Thomas O'Leary now going to have to do the same, but only has 3 laps to do it. Wonder if Herlock could maybe overtake O'Leary and maybe Elliott as well, just to be extra secure in this one. It's still possible to complete this in race 2.
Yeah, he's running out of time if he wants to do it, but it just makes race 3's job even easier. But anything could go wrong, a disconnect, wheel failure, anything like that. And yes, the gap, he's not going to have to score many points in race 3, but that doesn't help him if he doesn't score any. And that's a risk that he's definitely not going to want to take. Matt Richards, if he is watching this, is watching it in sheer anticipation, hoping that maybe he could get himself a championship win out of this. And, well, I'm sure he's not overly fussed, but it would be nice to round off a career and, of course, to win a championship by not even attending the final round. Ryan Elliott down to 3rd, of course, as Callum Wilson was just so aggressive and I think essentially just got fed up of looking at his rear end.
Well, I think you would do if you were in the situation that he was, because Elliott was defending so hard. He had to make that decisive move. In the end, it might come to that for Thomas O'Leary as well, who, by the way, is still mathematically involved in this title race, but needs to win this race. And that, unfortunately, is going to be tricky from this situation, from still 4th, which is where he finished in the opening race. That was the lowest place he could have finished and kept this title hunt alive. And unfortunately, it's not enough in this second race. Needs positions. It's not going to happen. There's 3 laps to go, including this one.
Well, I'm biting my nails at this one because it is, yeah, it's ramped up. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to predict. I don't know what to say. It's just been carnage and chaos. It's been flat out since lap number 1, and the implications. I mean, does Herlock even know that if he gets past O'Leary, he's going to win the championship? Surely he would, but I know a lot of drivers don't want to know.
Yeah, or just don't. Whether they want to or not, they sometimes just don't. Because especially in championships like this, it's not just one race in an evening where you can work it out beforehand. It's continuous races throughout the evening with a lot of maths going on all throughout. So it does turn tricky. And Herlock may well not know the situation right now. I certainly don't think Elliott knows, because as I said earlier, he might well have just tucked in behind Herlock anyway and decided to play rear gunner for him. By the way, if Herlock has his fastest lap stolen and he finishes 4th, then he just needs 1 point the final race. In the current situation, he needs 2 more, which would be 14th at the 3rd and final race, but it's not over here.
It's not. They're potentially 3 wide into Druids. O'Leary sends the move. It's Elliott going the long way round, and Herlock just sat idle in the background. A little bit of a snap of the oversteer for the lead Arasaka into Graham Hill Bend. He's got the inside line, but Thomas O'Leary around the long way. Here comes Herlock with that backwards momentum. If he keeps that fastest lap, he only needs one of these 2 places. Side by side as Elliott chucks the move to the inside of Surtees. Could that be to the advantage of Dan Herlock, who's now going to get the run as they head their way towards Hawthorns?
Well, he can only find himself on the very outside, though. Elliott can't really help him. He will give him the zip. Oh, no! Contact! It's into the wall, and he might take Thomas O'Leary as well here, Herlock, but he doesn't want to go around the outside through Hawthorns again. But it's Elliott into the wall on the back straight as he tried to cut in front of O'Leary, and he just didn't have the space yet. He wasn't clear yet.
He tried to move across, he got swiped, well, he swiped, found himself in the barrier. Thankfully, he managed to keep it out and is going to be hoping there's not a lot of significant damage to the front end. Jeffrey Fournier, as we predicted, is onto the back of this fight. We're about to start the final lap of race number 2. Herlock, as it stands, is winning the championship, but that is only if he retains that fastest lap. He needs that 3rd place as a bit of security, and there it is. A few inches, maybe.
Contact, huge contact on the wall for Elliott, and that will really disturb him throughout these final moments. And surely if Herlock hangs on to this fastest lap, he is going to take the title now. There are still fights going on further back. This is for the all-important 12th place. If the reverse grid goes that way, then whoever wins this battle will be on pole, but none of the others would have a chance, so they'll all be fighting over this one.
There will be. Again, there's only going to be a couple of tenths between 13th and 12th, but potentially when it comes to race 3, there's going to be 11 places between them. So small gains in race 2 could lead to big rewards potentially. In race 3, we've got half a lap left to go. Lewis Redshaw, I have to say, he's been very deserving of this race.
Yeah, certainly has. Made that move exactly when it was required, and has since gotten away with the lead. Herlock now still trying to get past O'Leary, by the way. It hasn't happened on this occasion, I don't think, and he's still 4th, which we believe would still be enough at this stage in the race, at this stage in the championship, but we'll obviously check as we go towards the line.
Lewis Redshaw, he's capitalised in race 2. He's fought as hard as he possibly can. And the Drake Racing 24 machine is going to take the penultimate race of the season here in Brands Hatch. But all eyes are on Mr. Dan Herlock. 4th place, the fastest lap, we think is going to be enough for him to take the crown of the 2023 VMO TCUK powered by VCO Championship. Dan Herlock provisionally is the driver's champion. And now he can chill for race 3. P4 was enough in the end. He took the fastest lap. Oh no, he didn't. Callum Wilson did. It comes down to race 3.
Wow, Callum Wilson's taken it. So he will require a point. Well, I thought Herlock might have just taken that, but he has been snatched away from the fastest. Well, did Wilson? Yeah, Wilson.
He did 28.2.
So he will take the point. Yeah, he needs to be in the top 15 to take the fastest lap point as well, and that's happened. So Herlock does need an extra point, and he will need 15th place to be crowned champion. And who knows where he's going to start? Let's find out.
Yeah, let's see. Of course, anywhere from the top 6 to the top 12 get flipped on the head for race number 3. And it's top 9. So it puts basically Herlock right in the middle of everything. But the good news is this is his soft tyre race. He's going to have less ballast. Surely this is the one where he seals the deal in race 3, but there are a lot of unknowns. It's racing. Anything can happen. We're suspended anticipation, but we'll see you soon. Moments away from the final race of this season. Dan Herlock, after missing out on the fast lap in race 2, it comes down to just half a point in the fight for the Drivers' Championship. Still myself, Zach Sweeney, Ewan O'Leary alongside me in the commentary booth. Mike Yao still on production, and we are all eagerly anticipating race number 3. Top 9 reverse grid, which puts Dan Herlock starting 5th place, but on his softer tyres and the lightest he's been all evening. Surely, Ewan, he just has to play it safe, ride the wave, and stay in the points.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have to do that much, but then again, I say that almost with hesitancy as I'm going through the sentence, because you just never know what can happen. I mean, who would have thought what happened to him in that last race, for example? He was under a bit more pressure than I expected, I have to be honest. He defended, decided to do that. I think it was the right call in the end, but there was a bit of contact at Hawthorne's Bend. He went off the road, very nearly found himself in the wall entirely. Saved it, but didn't get enough points quite to secure the title, because Callum Wilson stole that fastest lap away from him on the very last lap. So it was going on right to the very end, and now he needs 15th place or better to take home the title. But he's starting 6th here in this one, and it's raining. Brilliant.
Oh, as if we needed any more. Right, okay, bring on race 3 then, ladies and gentlemen. Right, we'll talk you through the grid for the final race of the season. Thomas Schwack, after 9th place in race 2, sees him take pole alongside Adam Christopher on the front row. Scott Sovic, Jeffrey Fournier, row 2 in 3rd and 4th place. Ryder Elliott in 5th, with Dan Herlock starting in 6th place. O'Leary and Wilson 7th and 8th. That's going to be a very heated fight amongst the rest of the top 10, which are, of course, Lewis Redshaw and Cito Vaya. They come Dylan Platt and Jack London sharing the 6th row of the field. I'm not looking forward to that run towards turn number 1 for the first time. Let's put it that way. You've then got Phil Garside, Matt Churgwin in 13th and 14th. Then comes Phil Morby, slowly but surely building his way through the pack in 15th, scoring a point in race 2. Matt Allington keeps him company on row number 8. Then comes Jordan Richardson, Johannes Leppert in 17th and 18th. Locke and Willis share row number 10. How many more drivers have we got actually staying with us for the final race of the season? We'll find out soon. Joe Lane, Cam Brewster at row 11. Then comes Callum Cripps after a big mistake in race 2 alongside Luke Mitchell, who had an even bigger one in race 2 going through Hawthorne's Bending, joins him on row 12. Then comes Scott Mitchell-Marm and Jack Nichols, the final of the King's Racing Machines, with Sam Dowman, all of whom were involved in that very big incident going into Hawthorne as well. Ewan, as if we didn't need any more spice and tension into race 3, we've got British weather.
Yeah, rain has arrived for the second time this evening, and the wipers are going, but it's not heavy rain really, is it? I mean, it's not terrible. We're hearing that as they loaded in, it was only 3% rain, and obviously everyone knows how percentages work. It's really not a lot. So how long is this even going to stay with us, if it is? What's the outlook of this race now? How is it going to transpire from here? Because it's a particularly bizarre situation, and how are the different cars going to be affected by this as well? How does Dan Herlock get through this opening lap? That's his biggest challenge here. Don't fall off the road on the opening lap, and the rest should take care of itself.
Yeah, basically just play it calm, play it clean, settle into this race nicely. 1 point is all he needs. A lot of pressure on the shoulders. The final race, 15 laps back onto the clock. We wait for the last couple of stragglers in the background. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it's wet, and it's the final race of the 2023 VMO TCUK Championship, powered by VCO. Thomas Schwack, Adam Christopher, the front row. A championship to be decided by only half of a point. And Brands Hatch has played host to a brilliant finale. We eagerly wait those cars to run their way towards Paddock Hill for the first time, for the final time this season. The top 9 reverse grid based on the results for race number 2, and there they go. A very slippery and tentative start here in Brands Hatch, but it's a good initial one for Thomas Schwack as he maintains the lead. You can see Scott Sovic immediately pushing his way into second, but all eyes I think are on Herlock, who's side by side with his teammate of Ryan Elliott, who picks his way behind and just stays in the slipstream and just stays with him. There's huge contact in the background though, multiple cars involved, pretty much the entire back end of the field facing the wrong way.
Well, that was carnage in the background. I think the top 15 or 20 have gotten away, but Johannes Leppert certainly hasn't. Suspension damage and no rear wing either on that Infinity, I'm afraid. That's a disaster or a load of drivers who are further back and still yet to come across the first sector line for the first time. Herlock slides his way through South Bank turn 4 and he's in 5th place right now. That's exactly where he needed to be. He's gotten through these opening laps very well, and now the rest will take care of itself. He's just got to stay out of trouble for 15 laps, possibly in the drizzling rain.
Well, it stopped. The rain has stopped, so we've only got a similar situation that we had in race 1. It stopped a lot earlier than it had done in race 1, in all fairness, so it shouldn't take too long to dry back up. But that is unfortunate for the likes of Phil Morby, who did, I think, start this race on wet tyres. It has caused a little bit of calamity. You can see Ryan Elliott, Ryan Elliott and Thomas O'Leary fighting away, I should say, for 6th place. But it has already caused a lot of mishaps. You can see not a lot of standing water on the circuit, as is to be expected, but side by side with Elliott and O'Leary, as O'Leary fights his way into 6th place. Dan Herlock on the back of Scott Sovic. Again, 5th place is more than enough. Keep it pointing the right way and hope that your hardware doesn't fail.
Yeah, that's another thing that will make you nervous as well. At 5th place, of course, 11 points for him when he only needs 1, really. He'd take it by 10.5 if it stays like this, but he wants even more. Side by side now with Sovic, who he was fighting, of course, for race 1 victory. The two of them are back together again, and Herlock is up another place into 4th.
Nicely done, and he's just, well, I don't know. I suppose he's just building more of a buffer to the absolute carnage that's going to ensue behind, so can't blame him for that one. Phil Garside under pressure from, of course, the Honda, Callum Wilson under pressure, I should say, from Phil Garside more specifically. Back to the front, we've got Sid O'Vire fighting away with Dylan Platt. Lewis Redshaw in behind, of course, our race 2 winner. You've then got Jack London side by side with him into Hawthorns. That is not what Phil Garside will want at all, over the grass. Fair enough, he's held it and he's not collected anyone else with him, so fair enough in my book.
I imagine he smashed the throttle there in the Honda and just got on with it through Hawthorn, but not the ideal line that you want through there, as Herlock has made another place. He's up to 3rd now, ahead of Jeffrey Fournier in the Ford. Thomas Frack leads the way here as Adam Christopher tries to hound him at the moment. I wonder if Daniel Herlock wants to start off the season with a win here. It might be possible.
Could well be. As we say, the ballast doesn't affect you too much, and he's on the soft tyres, especially in cold, damp conditions like this. They're really going to be helping him. So yeah, a win is on the cards. Of course, Adam Christopher ahead is also taking his soft tyre run, so should be gunning for the lead. But Thomas Frack, the RSR car, coincidentally teammates with Dan Herlock, is leading the way and will be helping reel in his championship winning, as it stands, teammate in behind. You've got Scott Sovic and Jeffrey Fournier fighting over 4th place in behind. It is going to be the Ford Focus that stays ahead for the time being, but well, those two, if I were them, I'd be working together, trying to get onto the back of this podium fight. But Scott Sovic not having any of it. Inside line once again through Surtees. He, as it stands, is able to launch the counter-attack and keep 4th place, but well, Fournier's not going anywhere.
And Christopher's not going anywhere either in terms of trying to take this lead away. I wonder whether Thomas Frack is just trying to help Herlock along right now. Whether he needs to or not is another issue. Probably doesn't, but even so, he's doing the defending from the front. Christopher trying to get away from this RSR sandwiching movement that they're doing to him at the moment, but I think it's inevitable. I don't see what he can do from here. He looked left and right up towards Dingledale, couldn't quite do it, and now Herlock's right there. Now it's a very, very difficult operation.
It is, but it's risk for Herlock that he has to carry. One thing goes wrong and it could be the championship up in smoke. We're going to take another look as to something that's happened. Phil Morby going backwards after starting this race on either intermediates or full wet. It's not entirely sure which, but you can see the red car in front going off. He himself goes off. There's already another car in the gravel. And then he's late on the brakes. Does he cook the rear end? No, he's fine. I think he actually just done a good job of keeping out of trouble. Thomas Frack leads from Christopher and Herlock, who has just set the fastest lap of a race, a 1:28.8, which, to be fair, for early pace, considering we've just come out of a little bit of rain, isn't a bad lap whatsoever. If you're Herlock, do you push for it, or do you just sit there?
Well, to be fair, it may not be a bad idea, because leading a lap will do it. He doesn't need to even finish or finish inside the top 15 to get the leading a lap point. You can finish wherever for leading a lap of the race. So he will actually take the title mid-race if he were to be able to cross the line in the lead at some point here. So maybe that's what he's thinking, for that extra level of security. However, it is a pretty dangerous and difficult task to try and get through here and do this without getting into contact or, you know, getting something that would give him a penalty or send him off the road entirely. He looks up the inside of Dingledale there, still taking risks.
Yeah, he is. He's not hesitant whatsoever. He wants this championship, but he also wants it in style. He's not taking it the boring way. He's doing it his way. But yeah, if he just leaves a lap, he can then park it, pull over, breathe, go get himself some food and celebrate the championship. But he's got himself and Christopher, well, his teammate of Thomas Vack and Christopher to get past if he wants to find himself up into the lead of this race. Christopher, of course, fighting it quite hard. Herlock doing his best. Scott Sovic once again takes the fast lap, 28.2. That's more like it, more representative of the pace. You can see how close Herlock is to Christopher. A bit of a snap as the Krupa goes to the inside, but it's going to be Herlock squeezing his way through. That is not the driving of a man that needs to finish this race inside the points to win the championship, but he's not backing down, and to be honest, I respect it.
Well, he was alongside there, and Christopher just kept going and going and turning in a little bit as well, but it was all fine in the end. Herlock made his way through, and now he's only got his teammate to dispatch of, and maybe by the end of this lap even, he will have led a lap and he'll be the champion mid-race as Vack just pulls over on the way towards Hawthorne. Herlock will go down the inside, he'll get into the lead, and now just needs to get to the line in this position for him to clinch the title on the road with still 10 laps to go of the season.
Yeah, good job from Herlock, and again, good camaraderie from Thomas Vack. He's now going to be able to back up the rest of the field. Christopher trying to send the move through Sheen and then into Dingledale. But Herlock points it the right way, cross that line, and you are the champion of 2023. It's been a season-long battle. He's got one more corner between himself and the championship, and then the rest of the race to go. He's not going to be able to celebrate for long before he's back to reality, back leading this race. Dan Herlock, he's going to be able to tip the scales. He's going to cross the line, take the point for leading a lap in a race and become the champion of the VMO TCUK Championship powered by VCO. He's going to celebrate. He doesn't even need to finish, but he's going to be looking to end the season and win the championship on a win.
He's going to look to have that 6th win of the season, and now he's really playing for how many points can I distance Matt Richards by, and that's exactly the situation he finds himself in at the moment, because the fight for 2nd place is quite fierce. Thomas Vack has decided that he wants to give his teammate the biggest lead possible and back everyone up behind. Christopher, Sovic, O'Leary and Platt are all there right now, and they're all fighting, so that's kind of working at the moment really. It's only giving Herlock a bigger lead as this race goes on.
It is, and of course, if Herlock is able to take the win, this will be his 6th of the season. It will then be his 13th podium of the season. And of course, Herlock has Richards has had 6 wins and 12 podiums to 27 starts, so only a couple of points swing between the two of them. And then, of course, only a podium as well, separating them in terms of the stat sheet, which is insane with how close those two have been over the course of the season. It's been mental to watch as there goes Phil Morby. He's off the roads, he's into the barrier, fortunately out of the way of the rest of the lead pack. No one else involved, but just goes to show how much he's struggling.
That was the best outcome from that really, because they would either have to all pass him or he could have spun in front of everyone there, so thankfully it was off to the side for Morby, and he's now going to be really out of contention. By the way, started this race on wets. I think you mentioned earlier on, I know it was raining earlier, but it wasn't raining anywhere near enough, but worth taking the risk in the pack. As that was contact, Christopher tips around back. It's caused carnage behind as O'Leary tries to skip around, but surely that's going to be Christopher's fault, and that might well be a penalty because he's tipped around Vack, who plummets down the order.
Yeah, that is a shame, and well, a small mistake, it's had big consequences. Dylan Platt picks his way into 4th place because of it and is well and truly in with a shout of the podium, but so too is this entire train of 7 cars all the way back down to Cedar Via in 8th place, and then again London and Cripps aren't a million miles away either, only a second off the back of that train. We're halfway through race number 3 and we're going to take another look at it. In all fairness, the inside's covered off. No. Well,
yeah, it's difficult a bit. He does just get straight into the back of the Infinity there, and Adam Christopher may well land himself in trouble for that, I'm afraid. And then of course there's defending going on and racing between himself and O'Leary, but yeah, just get straight into the back of Vack there, who was doing a decent job of defending. Maybe you'd describe it as slightly overkill for this stage, because you know, Herlock doesn't really need the result at this point. I know he did need the lead of a lap, but after that now he's got all that. It should all be fine. He could just grab it slightly overkill, but it doesn't mean that Christopher can drive in the back of him, so unfortunately that may well be a penalty for him post-race.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Again, it's one of those moves where you either look like an absolute hero or an absolute zero, and unfortunately it was the latter for Adam Christopher. Would have been amazing if fact left a little bit of more space on the inside, but he didn't, as he was right to. Yeah, Christopher, I'm sure, is going to get a big slap on the wrist, as I'm sure a lot of drivers are tonight. Aidan Millward, once again, in for a long night of stewards' reports, I'm sure. Just depends, I suppose, on how many of them are too fussed about what's happened. But yeah, lap 8 of 15, not long left to go to round off the season, and what a brilliant season it has been. I mean, just taking a minute to reflect, all the way back in mid-May we started the championship. We're now towards the tail end of the year, mid-October, so yeah, it's been a long one, but it's flown by in a flash. You've got Sokovic and Dylan Platt still battling away as if they're the ones fighting for the championship. Jeffrey Fournier fighting away with Callum Cripps as well, as the BMW picks his way up into 8th place and maintains that ahead of the Ford Focus. But this season, I mean, we've had a lot of carnage, chaos, ups and downs, but for the most part, it's been a lot of fun to be able to be a part of.
Yeah, it's been a good season, and as I was saying to you in the break there, it's kind of been a shame that Richards and Herlock have done sort of, or missed different rounds, because they've been so close throughout the championship so far. Of course, Herlock missing that Snetterton round of the second round of the season, and this Brands Hatch GP round being missed by Richards at the end of the season now. So it's been offset all season, if you like. But Richards scored 33 points away while Herlock was away, leaving Herlock score 34 in this one. But if you count that over the rest of the season, Richards has scored one more point than Herlock, and that's just a remarkable statistic compared to what they've all been through throughout this season. It's been a fantastic fight between them. A championship situation we've never really seen before, and unfortunately Thomas O'Leary couldn't really get himself involved. But Herlock set himself on the right foot immediately, getting that pole position, getting the point for it as well, getting himself 2 points on the board immediately with that pole position and leading the opening lap as well. No, he didn't win the first race, but he put the marker down. He took over half of the points that he needed in that first race, and while he has left it up to the final one, which is, as we say, not ideal at all, it does give a lot of peril, this final race, he's navigated it perfectly, and he hasn't done it timidly either. He's raced this final race, and it's paid off for him, admittedly with the help of teammates, but it's paid off for him, and he's got his reward as well now with a big lead on the final race.
Yeah, he's just driven so well. Unfortunately, so too of these guys as they continue their battle. I mean, a bit of a lapse in Callum Cripps' good driving as he allows Sido Via through, as he got a little bit of oversteer and falls his way to 8th place. But yeah, as I say, he's not been shy, and I respect it so much. He's not just tiptoed around everyone trying to score the minimum amount of points possible. He's here to end the show with fireworks, and as it stands, that's exactly what he's doing, leading the way out in front. Dan Herlock has had an insane season. However, he's off, and of course, while he has already won the championship, he doesn't need to win this race. He was close to not doing that, but thankfully he's able to keep it under wraps. Scott Sovic, now Dylan Platt fighting for the podium, and now obviously with Thomas O'Leary into second place, not a million miles away, but he's just out there having a laugh, isn't he? Bit of a trip through Paddock Hill.
Big trip through the gravel there at the first turn. But it doesn't really matter. Herlock, I do feel like, yeah, he definitely knew the situation there. And Back certainly knew the situation as well, if you saw through the GP out on that lap. Not only did he pull to the side to let Herlock through immediately, but he immediately went on the defensive as well from Christopher. We all know how that battle ended, unfortunately, in the end. But that little bit of defending, it was through this section here. He just pulled to the right there, did Back, and he defended. And that immediately gave Herlock the gap. Eventually, it's given him the gap to go on with the race lead at the moment. But what it did at the time gave him that point for leading the lap, and that secured him the title with 10 laps to go. And very deserving of it as well. As things stand right now, he's going to win the title by 20.5 points, which is going to feel a lot less close than it was.
Yeah, considering how tense he was 20 minutes ago, he's going to be happy with a 20.5 point lead, I'm sure. But the battle those two have shared all season long has been insane. But in all fairness, I can't actually recall many times where they've fought side by side together. They've just sort of had different championships, but they've just sort of coagulated to be really close as the season progresses. But yeah, it's been insane to watch those two battling away with just the supreme amount of pace that they've got. Of course, Matt Richards taking his huge milestone last time out at Silverstone and a win along the way as well. Yeah, he very understandably did decide to retire and almost won the championship without even having to show up. But with the equal amount of races entered, Dan Hurlock was the one to take it, and I just, yeah, he's negotiated this round really, really well. Could have got it in race 2, but he didn't, and he just said, all right, I'll just get it in race 3. Of course, as we say, back, moving out of the way ever so slightly to get him that lead lap point. Definitely meant there was a little bit going on at RSR, but nothing wrong with having teammates that've got you back.
No, absolutely, it's not against the rules, and so it's absolutely fine in that respect. As I say, it's going to look a lot less close than it actually was this season, I think, in the end. But Hurlock, you can't understate what a job he's done here today in terms of the amount of points that he's actually scored. It's going to edge up towards 50, I think. He had 33 at the start of the day, and he's going to get another 21 from this as things stand. So it's 54 on the day. That's a big total, and way more than he needed in the end, but a big total on the final race. There's very few rounds that can really be replicated there by Matt Richards over the course of the season. Oulton Park, maybe one of them, where he scored 47 in one evening. At Thruxton, he scored high 40s on that particular occasion. Donington Park, where he won 2 races, of course, and scored 51. I think, after only briefly scanning the results myself, this could be the biggest score of anyone all season as well. And what a time to put it out the bag.
Yeah, he's arrived, and he knew the task at hand. Of course, it wasn't straightforward. He come in with 34 points needed, and yeah, he's blown that out of the park with an exceptional amount of points. It wasn't easy, of course. A win and a third place is all he realistically needed in order to do it, but that's easier said than done. Luke Mitchell, by the way, fighting away with Cam Brewster, not for a point, but it could potentially be the position they need to then go on to get that single point. Of course, Cam Brewster narrowly missed out on it over the course of race 1 and would like to get some redemption for that. He's side by side with the Kings Racing Infinity. He's slightly ahead this time. Of course, it's Mitchell on the inside. Is it going to go a little bit better for him this time round? It should, but you can see the Haas livery car going the long way round. Beautifully done. Great respect between the two, and Cam Brewster up to 16th.
Just so that you can have good racing around here at Brands Hatch, and that's something that's sometimes missing from this track, but not on that occasion. Brewster there going, Garside was the one going a little bit wide there, and Brewster catching up a little bit. Luke Mitchell watching on from behind, as that was very nearly contact between the 2 cars in front, and now the 3 of them will be very close, fighting for the last points in the field.
Yeah, just a handful of laps left to go. Of course, 3 to be exact, 13, 14 and 15. Luke Mitchell at the back end of this train, and Cam Brewster potentially going for that final points paying position of the season as well. Phil Garside would like to end it off in the points. Well, what we say, just looking back in reflection, what a season it has been. At the front, at the middle, at the back, it's just been carnage and chaos. And in all fairness, we haven't really had a definitive front, middle and back. It's just been chopping and changing week in, week out. So many different people in contention. And arguably that's the best case scenario. Cam Brewster nearly going for it into Graham Hill Bend, but nothing materialising as of yet.
Well, it might do on the exit. That was enough to scare him from going wide there. Garside, unfortunately, he's going to have to lose out entirely. Brewster straight through and up a place, although the Honda with a decent run off the corner there. Might have a run down the back straight. I don't think it'll be close enough in towards Hawthorns. Saw a bit of a change just inside the top 10 there, although not sure who might have overtaken who on that particular occasion. Well, for 15th, though, certainly staying at the same. Brewster making his way to that final point. That was a decent move, just to set it up through turn 3 and secure it through turn 4.
Yeah, brilliant done. Cam Brewster has had a decent season as well. Just casual improvements, and well, he's not managed to get any wins or podiums, but he's been up there scoring some decent points, and well, not a bad season at all, which, to be fair, for the majority of these guys, some of them have been in more incidents than others, let's put it that way, but yeah, for the most part it's been quite good in terms of the racing you respect out on track. And well, Dan Hurlock is, well, if he hadn't already won the championship, we'd be a little bit nervous. You've got Jeffrey Fournier fighting away with Matt Allington. A little bit more contact on the exit of Druids, but the up and under from the Calamity Motorsport driver as they run their way towards Graham Hill. It's going to be the up and under, a bit more contact just for good measure, but the Ford Focus is just going to have some overlap, or is he? No, the Hyundai is able to stay in front for now. Matt Allington keeps the top 10.
It's a fierce battle, though, for Well, it was 9th position. Jack London's really getting away from this now, but it's for 10th. Allington has really made great progress since that crash at the start of race 1. So it's been progress ever since then. We'll have had to start race 2 from a long way back, and probably this race as well. But he's now inside the top 10 all over again, maybe showing what he could have done without those issues in race 1. But top 10 will certainly do. It's Fournier and Oulton will have to hold off, and I think it will be tricky on a normal day, but the two have probably got a lot more weight on board in these final moments.
And, well, very much are the final moments. We've got a lap and a corner left of this season. Dan Hurlock is going to lead them round. It's a parade lap for him, as he's going to win the championship and potentially as well, with almost certainty, win the race also to make it his 6th of the season and his 13th podium as well. It's been an amazing championship charge, but here's Scott Sovic fighting away. This is, of course, for 4th place, is drifting his way around the outside as Callum Cripps. Beautifully done. He still emerges side by side, at least momentarily, with the Team Ballas Esport and the race 1 winner of Scott Sovic, who narrowly was able to pip Dan Hurlock right at the end. They're fighting away now for 4th place and potentially 3rd place as well. 2/3-ish of a lap left to go. And Dylan Platt might be able to hang on for the podium.
Well, very well held there, because Cripps made contact with Sovic and it sent the BMW very nearly all the way around, but he held it and kept his foot in the whole way through as well. It shows the way you can drive these cars sometimes, especially through slow speed corners, or even through slow speed corners where you think they'd normally go around, but got away with it there and might even look at a final podium as well. Platt's going to be under a lot of pressure here in the final corners. Cripps looking strong. Wonder whether he'll run out of corners though.
Yeah, I think so. Dan Hurlock, it's going to be a huge sigh of relief when he crosses the line. He's going to cross the T's, dot the I's, sign, seal and deliver a brilliant season. The 2023 VMO TCUK powered by VCO champion of Dan Hurlock crosses the line, victorious here in Brands Hatch. A sensational run of form to score the most amount of points of anyone, we think, so far this season. What a great way to cap off a great season. Thomas O'Leary, and it is going to be Dylan Platt that rounds off the podium for the final race this season. Take a bow, Dan Hurlock. We're fighting all the way back still. Jeffrey Fournier in a drag race to the line with the BMW of Callum Wilson. It was Wilson that took 11th place ahead of Fournier. I have to say, Ewan, considering we didn't have Matt Richards here, I don't think we could have asked for a better final round.
It was very, very interesting indeed, and to be fair, if he was here, then he almost certainly would have showed up that championship at the end. But the two of them, missing 3 races each, 1 round each over the course of the season. It's kept it very close indeed. A unique situation with Hurlock just requiring a number of points that he knew at the start of the day. I guess that's the case in any championship finale. You just don't know it at the time, but he did know it at the start, and he certainly did that. He smashed it out of the park. In fact, his average finishing position, by the way, just above second, or just below second, depending on how 2 point something, depending on how you look at it. That's a lot of points over the course of the day, and certainly a lot more than many have managed in this season so far, and more than enough for a title this season.
Yeah, he wraps it off in great fashion. It's Dan Hurlock, Thomas O'Leary and Dylan Platt, the final podium of the season. Callum Cripps and Scott Sovic round off the top 5, and a good evening of racing for them. Then comes Adam Christopher, pending potentially a penalty for him, as to be fair, same can be said for a lot of drivers. Ryan Elliott, Cedar Vyas, 7th and 8th. Jack London and Matt Allington round off the top 10 in a very hard-fought fight all the way to the end. Behind that, of course, we've got plenty of drivers that were matched very, very closely. Then comes Callum Wilson, Jeffrey Fournier, Scott Mitchell-Mann working his way forward from the back of the grid ahead of Lewis Redshaw, and Cam Brewster taking the final point of the season. Phil Garside narrowly missing out on it ahead of Luke Mitchell, Matt Churgwin, Thomas Vack and Ben Willis both wanting more out of race number 3. Behind that, we've still got a number of cars, of course, just to round it off. Adam Locke, Joe Lane, Jordan Richardson, the last of those that were able to finish on the lead lap. Then comes Leppert and Morby, both a couple of laps down, and Nichols and Sam Dowman, the final of whom who took to the grid, but unfortunately didn't quite make it to the checkered flag. We are just going to wait on a couple of drivers to jump into the broadcast waiting room to come and have a chat with us to sort of reminisce on their season so far, because we've crammed a lot of action into just a few months.
We certainly have. There's been a lot going on in this championship this season. It's come to a dramatic conclusion here tonight. So, and yeah, it'd be good to hear their thoughts on the entire season, really. But I'm sure Dan Hurlock has got some celebrating to do, first of all, and then a lot more later on, because it's been a long season, and eventually he has turned out champion despite a scare through the middle of race 2, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, just a little bit. Just a small one. Again, we'll drag in the drivers when we do. Of course, at the moment, we've only got Cripps and Sovic. Would be nice to have a chat with Dan Hurlock, but we understand if he needs a couple of minutes just to breathe, because it's been a long one for him and a very tense evening. Even though he hasn't really had anyone but the finishing order to race against, he's had a lot on his plate this evening, and we again, would be nice to have a chat with him just to sort of hear his thoughts over the course of the season, how he was able to maybe close the gap, not knowing if Matt Richards was going to ever miss a round, because for Hurlock he didn't know that until last week. And we're going to go with Scott Sovic for the first interview. Of course, he of those that are independent entries, those that don't come in with any teammates. Of course, Team Alice Esports driver, of course. Scott Sovic is the independent champion of this season. Scott, you won the championship. You won the race in race 1 as well. Nicking it off of Hurlock right at the end. It's been a decent season for you.
Yeah, no, wow. Yeah, I generally did not expect to be coming into the end of tonight being a race winner. So, yeah, no, I can only thank the team enough, and obviously, even though I'm an independence champion and only had myself as in the team, it's Team Ballas Esports have been fantastic team to be with, and obviously had a bit of a rough month now, so it's just obviously dedicating that win to Cristian Colagrossa, who sadly passed away 4 weeks ago. And yeah, it's a bit surreal to come. It's been a bit surreal the past 4 weeks, honestly. But to be able to not only win the championship but do it by winning a race is just it's amazing.
Yeah, flying the flag proud, I'm sure. And maybe shining upon you some good luck here tonight at Brands Hatch. Scott, you've driven so phenomenally well this evening, and of course for the entire season. It's been a long one. I'm sure a lot of pressure on your shoulders coming into today, but I suppose, what does the future hold for you? I mean, we're going to see you again in any future championships, and well, are there more wins on the cards?
I mean, I always hope there's more wins in the cards, but I was a bit in doubt if I couldn't win a race this season, if I should continue on a high level. But I think today, if anything's going to validate me continuing on, because I do feel like I've got the ability to do well in the future. So hopefully I'll be participating in any future championships. I don't know what the future's going to hold for me, but I'm definitely going to be seen in a Ballas car in other championships regardless. So I think for that, on that end, it's definitely looking good. But I'll just have to see next year. Obviously, this year's been pretty good for me, I feel. So definitely want to continue into next season.
Awesome stuff. Well, biggest congratulations to you, Scott. It's not easy when you're all by yourself out there on a grid of 30 cars, but fair play to you. Of course, a couple wins this season, and you very much do deserve it. So I'm sure this is only see you later for now. I'm sure we'll see you back in the future. Thanks for talking.
Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, Scott. Of course, the independent champion of this season. Next up, though, we have got a number of other drivers to come and have a chat with us. I suppose we'll go to Thomas O'Leary next. Now I've got two of them to deal with in the commentary booth, but it's fine because they're completely unrelated. Thomas, I think this is the first time speaking to you, of course. Nice to meet you first and foremost. But you've had a very impressive season. Of course, in the end, not quite enough for the championship, but still consolidating a top 3. You've had a really good season.
Yeah, we've been strong all year. I mean, we just struggled to score at the start of the season, and we sort of lost out through the season because of it. But yeah, we had some good pace, just not enough for Dan, like you said. He was insane pace in all the races. So nothing we could do there.
Not quite. But I have to say, of course, it's been a season of plenty of highs for you. I mean, 4 wins in the end, a couple of them taking sort of 2 in one evening. What has been the biggest highlight of 2023 for you?
I think Croft was a good good weekend. We didn't really have any pace going into it, and we were lucky in race 1 and got the win. But then we had the right pace in race 2 and managed to stay there. So that was probably the high for me. But there was good races in all the weekends. So we had consistent pace in every track, which was good to see. We just didn't quite get the results some of the rounds.
And what's next for you? I mean, surely you've got to be aspiring for a championship next.
Oh, that's the plan for everyone, isn't it? But we'll see. We'll take it one step at a time. Aim for higher next year.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks to you for taking the time to talk to us. Congratulations on an awesome season, and we'll see you in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast. It's great to watch back afterwards, and no doubt great for people watching live as well.
Awesome to commentate on. Thank you for joining us, Thomas. We'll see you soon. Thomas O'Leary, the driver in the end that finished 3rd place in the championship. We have got a couple of drivers to talk to. We'll go straight to the man himself, Daniel Hurlock. A tense evening for you, I'm sure. A lot on the cards, but you managed to pull it off in the end. Well done.
Cheers. Was quite tense. Obviously, the wheel dying in race 1, that wasn't ideal.
That's what caused it, okay.
As it died over the line fully, and I lost force feedback when I went off. So that was a bit of a scary moment. But other than that, it was pretty good. Pretty good evening.
Yeah, and of course, did you know what the situation was like? Obviously, me and you, and we were calculating he needs X amount to win the championship in this race and whatever. Did you have any idea what you needed to do during the race?
I had a rough idea. Just drive fast.
Easy as that, innit? Right?
Well, ideally, yes. But yeah, I think it was Ryan in my ear, just keeping me updated every now and then.
Nice. Well, again, great camaraderie between you and your teammates. Of course, Thomas and Ryan both worked really nicely with you over the course of the 3 races to give you a bit of a hand. Of course, it's been a long season, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but what has been your top spotlight moment of 2023?
One of them's definitely got to be Thruxton, race 1. Drove really well there, got a really good lap. Qualifying tonight, my lap was pretty good. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Sliding the boat around.
Yeah, well, you were also driving a bit of a boat today. It was a little bit rainy, a little bit tough, but well, I suppose in the future, are you looking to come back and defend your title?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back next season to have a bit more fun. I very much doubt Ryan's going to be happy to drive the boat again. He's not had the best of times with it this season, but yeah, we'll definitely be back in some form of car.
Awesome. Well, that does help. Yeah, 4 wheels, and you'll be all right. Just drive fast as well, and you'll win the championship. Awesome stuff. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Congratulations on your championship. Go and celebrate it. Whatever tickles your fancy in terms of celebrating your sim racing championship win. And well, best luck for the future. I'm sure we'll talk soon in the future.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daniel Hurlock, the 2023 VMO TCUK championship winner. And well, what a season it has been for him, it must be said. Ewan, it's been a mega season, a long one for sure, and well, feels weird to already be at the end of it, but to be fair, it's been a good 5 months of action.
Yes, yeah, it's been a while, but it's been good, and it's a deserving champion as well in Dan Hurlock. Fairly understated for a champion, I suppose, but maybe he was expecting it, and maybe obviously the moment of elation where he got that only point, of course. Well, not the only point he got, actually, I should say, but one of the points that secured him the title for leading that lap. He will have known and had that sort of elation moment, if you like, a long time ago. So that would explain that, I suppose. But even so, congratulations to him, and thanks to everybody, because what a season it's been.
It has been amazing. Of course, it's been myself, Zach Serena, Ewan O'Leary alongside me in the commentary booth. For the most part of the season, we've had Cameron Roger here and called upon help with the amazing Alex Goldschmidt as well. Not to say Ewan and Cam aren't amazing either. They're both awesome as well. But yeah, it's been amazing to be a part of the commentary team. We've had Mike Yao and Daniel Costello behind the scenes doing the production over the course of this magnificent season. Thank you to everyone at home for watching along. We hope you have enjoyed. Thanks, of course, to all the admins and staff behind the scenes here at VMO trying to keep everything on the card. guys, it's been a pleasure to be a part of. We look forward to seeing you back in the future, but it's goodbye for now.